And now we move on to my guest today. It's lovely to have you in the studio, Anne Foweraker. It's a fascinating name, and you've come all the way from... Where have you...
Near Callington.
Near Callington this morning. Yes. How can you explain how your name came about?
Well, the name is Foweraker. It's actually my maiden name. It's the one that I'm using for my novels and for my poetry. It's actually a West Country name. It comes from around the Exmouth area.
Very interesting, yes.
The Fower, which is Fower, just means four, and the Aker is acre.
So it's 4 acres,
It's
really?
4 acres, really. But the Fower is, I think, if you say it in a really West Country accent.
Yes.
I have a will from 1929 where 4 shillings are left to the poor of the parish, and that is spelt Fower. So we have 4 shillings left to the poor of the parish.
Wonderful.
So, yeah, Fower, Aker is Foweraker.
They won't forget that now.
Hopefully.
Because you are an author and a poet, and lived in Berkshire when you were a child. Mm-hmm. Lovely county, I should think. And now you're in Cornwall for the last 30 years.
Yes, I married a Cornishman, so I'm Cornish by marriage.
That's wonderful. And you've been writing, have you, since early days?
Oh, I've written poetry since I was about 10. I sort of have to write poetry. Sometimes they come and they rattle around and get in the way, so I have to write poetry.
Write it down, that's the best thing. Did you keep your poems from when you were young or not?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I wrote them all up nicely in beautiful fountain pen in a book. And I've still got that book.
Is really brilliant. Perhaps you'll publish that one day.
Or perhaps I won't.
Well, children would like it. You see, if no, maybe not. It's up to
Teenage angst. A lot of it.
Of course, yes. Well, anyway, you trained as a teacher, didn't you?
I did. I love teaching. It's in my bones.
Yes.
So, yes, I trained as a teacher, but I've always loved writing.
In primary and secondary you did?
Yes, both.
In Plymouth and Cornwall?
Yes, I trained for the middle school.
Yes.
And then we came down to live down in Plymouth, and there weren't any middle schools.
No.
So I taught in the secondary school, woodwork and metalwork.
Did you?
Well, my main subject was interdisciplinary handicraft.
Oh!
Which covered everything from paper through to forge work. It was just absolutely enormous amount of
It's a good wide
parts.
range, isn't it?
Yeah,
Wonderful.
It was brilliant.
So there you are. You've been.
I retrained for primary after my children were old enough to go to school. So
Yes.
hence going into primary and then teaching Cornwall.
Marvellous. So you've enjoyed all aspects of teaching, which is good experience, especially when you come into doing your belly dancing.
Yes. Yeah, my hobbies include belly dancing and bodyboarding and sand sculpting.
Oh, sand sculpting. That is amazing, isn't it?
Well, I call mine Between the Tides sand sculpting. These wonderful ones that you see done, they usually take days and weeks. And they're all with rammed sand in big shapes, and then they carve.
Do they bring in special sand for that?
You want lake sand, really.
Right.
Beach sand is too round, it's rolled. Lake sand is better. They sometimes bring in, some places have it naturally.
Did you take photographs of your...
Of mine, yes.
Of course, yes.
Of course, because mine are usually gone within an hour or two.
Well, that's really how
in.
it should be.
Yeah.
But in Norway, they're going for that as well.
There's some stunning work out there. I do admire it, but I rather like to create things between the times.
Well, you had your children with you probably when you were doing it.
That's how it started.
Yes.
Making things
How
for
many?
them.
How many?
What, children?
Yes.
I have 4 boys.
Did you?
Yes. And so keeping them entertained on the beach was quite important.
It certainly was, yes, good. Well, all these interesting things you've been doing, and now, of course, you are a writer, with the Liscard Poetry Group.
Yes, yes.
And you've written, well, it says it's a life necessity for you, you say.
Well, like I say, sometimes the poems are rattling around in there. They have to come out. Those are the life necessity ones. Others, well, you write things for events or to themes. So
yes. Can we have one of your poems? It'd be lovely. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start with one that was written for an event. It was an event in a library. This is a sonnet. It's called Off the Shelf. When I tell you where I found him, much too tall, dark and handsome to be true, you must understand it was just a whim that made me want to bring him home to you. You see, he was close to the non-fiction on the shelf marked romances, true and false, squaring up to Darcy, causing friction between Casanova and someone else. So I thought he would be just the ticket, as you were feeling so lovelorn and blue. How was I to know he'd turn out wicked, a dark deceiver, and love and leave you? Now, I'll be more careful in the library when I go to select one just for me.
Oh, good poem. Certain but a mystery about that too. That's a good one. Well, now let's move on to talk about your novel writing. You wrote your first novel, waiting for your younger son to be potty trained.
Yes, I know it does sound crazy, but if you have 4 children, by the time you get to the 4th, you're really rather laid back about potty training. And I tended to sit them on the potty after breakfast, a couple of toys, and I'd sit and read or wait. And I wasn't reading, I was actually running through this idea that was like watching a little film in my head. And I decided to start writing it down. By the time he was potty trained, by the way, it's a good job he's not even in the country in that minute, isn't it? Otherwise,
it is, isn't it? Yes.
By the time he was potty trained, I had 84,000-word novel.
That's amazing.
And I was like, oh, how did I do this? I was so chuffed. I typed it all up. I sort of showed it to friends and family. Oh, I am so glad that you couldn't put novels sort of straight onto Amazon like you can now, back then.
Why is that?
Well, because when I look at it, there were good bits, but there were also a lot of not good bits. It was my apprentice piece, and it's still there, but it's tucked away in a dusty drawer where it doesn't really get seen. I think
with
it
a
taught
revamp,
me a lot.
it would be fine, probably.
Yes, but I'm not sure if I want to go there. I have too many other
You're moving
new ideas.
forward now.
Yeah.
This is
too many new ideas.
Yes, and lots of books you've had actually published, haven't you?
I've got 4 out at the moment. Yes.
Yes. Do you want to mention what they're called, or talk about them?
Yeah.
Or we can talk about one, and then we'll have a piece of music.
That sounds a good idea. Well, the first one after that very first one is called Divining the Line. And this came about, I was inspired after I met Don the Diviner, who is at Chasewater, lived at Chasewater.
Oh, yes.
And we all had a go at divining. And that sort of triggered off this
Did it work?
Yes.
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 Using the rods?
Using a hazel forked twig.
Ah, a twig. Yes.
It was fascinating stuff. So this novel came about. It's not really a romance novel. I must say that. Though I did enter it for the Romance Writers' new novel competition, and it was put forward to the next level, which is quite an accolade. But it's not a romance novel.
Right. Yes.
I'll read you the description, I think. The first time it happened, it felt like stumbling across another avenue to an ancient monument. But this one pulled at more than just his head. There was a tightness in his chest, and the lights twinkled and flashed inside his mind, the intensity giving Perrin a firework of a headache. Following the line, years later in the early 90s, leads him into Liz Hawkey's ordered life, and together they discover the source of the line. This is a story of family, love and loss, and divining the line brings the ordinary and the extraordinary together into everyday life.
I'm fascinated.
Sure. Nearly all my novels have what I would say is very ordinary people at their core. The diviner isn't ordinary, but Liz Hawkey, who is our main character really, she's an ordinary woman. She's a beautician in a store. And I like to write books where the main character is somebody you might know.
That's a good idea. Yes.
They might be your neighbour. They might be somebody you met in the shop. They might be, somebody you've talked to. I like that because then I feel that you can get more empathy with what happens when things happen, and they do.
Brilliant.
Marge James, RSAB.
Hello, and back to the programme. I've got Anne Foweraker with me today, and I'm really enjoying talking to you and hearing about your writing and your poetry. And what are you going to talk about next?
Well, I was thinking about my record choice there. You see, the Monkees were the thing to be watching when I was a teenager, and I used to write stories then for my friends, and the stories were about the Monkees. Dave, Mike, Mickey and Peter, and me and my friends.
I see.
So this is, I think, really where the story writing took off. And then I even used this idea later in one of my novels. One of my novels, which is called Some Kind of Synchrony, has two women as the main characters, and in fact the whole story is told through these two women in almost alternating chapters. And one of them did just that. She wrote stories for her friend at school, and now there they are, they're in their early 30s, and they're driving to work from the suburbs into a Midlands town, or into a Midlands city, sorry. And she's telling her friend stories, and she tells her this really long, brilliant story, and her friend records it and types it up and finds it's so good she decides she'll send it off to an agent just to see. Well, this story gets picked up and does end up going on to be published. This is all within the story of these two women's lives. And what happens, it's called Some Kind of Synchrony, and what happens is that the things in the book where she's sort of hung her characters on people she knows start happening to the real life people. And the story in the book was really quite nasty. So nasty things start happening.
Dear.
So you have this, well, one of my reviewers said this is a buy one get one free. You buy the book and you get two complete stories within it.
So what's this one
edgy.
called?
That's Some Kind of Synchrony, as in something is happening with synchrony with
Yes,
with
I
the
understand.
story. Yeah.
Now,
So
you can get these books, can't you? Are they e-books?
they're all at the moment. They're all e-books, and so
Yes.
they're available on Amazon. Easiest way to find those is to put my surname in, which is, as we were saying, is Foweraker, Foweraker, and that will probably bring you to my author page. So there's 4 books and a novella there. Or you can go to anmadebooks.co.uk, and that's where you need to go if you haven't got a Kindle but you have got a Kobo or a Nook or a Sony reader, or you just want to read it on your computer, because there you can get the EPUB and the PDF versions as well.
Yes, I managed to get it on my computer and it came up very nice large print actually, which in fact is quite good because you don't have to put your glasses on.
No. That's what's wonderful also about the ebooks. You can change the font size and read them in any size you like. It's great.
It is good,
It is very helpful if you don't want to keep looking for your glasses.
Well, I haven't got Kindle, but I have got the computer, the laptop. So, yes, fascinating work you're doing, Anne. And shall we have another poem now, and then
yes, let's
move
have
on
another look at the poem. I picked all poems that are sort of book orientated. This is a villanelle, which you'll know about. So for anybody who doesn't know, you're very restricted with a villanelle. It's a form where you're only allowed two different rhymes, and your first and third line have to be repeated as the last line of the next 4 verses, and as a rhyming pair in the last verse. And there's only three lines per verse, so it doesn't go on forever. It's called Judging by the Cover, and it has a syllable count that has to be kept to. But there you go. Judging by the cover. I really thought I could read him like a book. It was to be so easy to make him mine, it was just the matter of the perfect hook. Then, when he gave me that certain kind of look, I knew everything would be just fine. I really thought I could read him like a book. When he said he didn't think I ought to cook, instead I took him expensively to dine. It was just a matter of the perfect hook. When my friends told me they thought he was a crook, I believe they were just spinning me a line. I really thought I could read him like a book. I gave him everything, and he took, while telling me everything was just fine. It was just a matter of the perfect hook. Dear reader, his cover's worth a second look, but beware, read beyond his opening line. I really thought I could read him like a book. It was just a matter of the perfect hook.
Oh, I like that. There's quite a lot in that.
But funny too.
Yes, exactly, yes. Young girls, beware. Right. So, as I say, you're producing all these e-books, and you can get them on Amazon and then put them onto your Kindle. Mm-hmm. I wonder how many listeners out there have got Kindle now. It would be fascinating to know. But there we are. So you've written, your 4 books.
Yes.
We've mentioned 2 of them, have we, so far?
We have.
Can you move on to the next one, perhaps?
Right, okay. Well, Nothing Ever Happens Here is set firmly in Cornwall. Oh, actually, I say set firmly in Cornwall. It starts in London. Both characters start off in London, but it's not long before they are both down in Cornwall. Nothing Ever Happens Here is a firmly tongue-in-cheek title.
Some people think that, I remember when we were moving to Cornwall 40 years ago, well, what are you going to do in Cornwall? And I thought, and I've found there's far more to do in Cornwall than there ever was in Gloucestershire.
Absolutely. And this is it, people they go, oh, nothing ever happens here. Well, even in the book, one of the characters says that particular line, and that's where the title came from. It's a teenager, and she's moaning, oh, nothing ever happens here. Because she's at that point she hasn't fallen, but she's just spied this dishy son of our main character, and she can't understand why they've come to Cornwall, because nothing ever happens here. He's come from London. Yeah. But the poor lad, actually, he's just been beaten up by some drug-pushing other pupils at the school, and
in London.
Yes. And so he needs to get away, and his mother gets him away for a break. That's the idea. I'll just read the description, give you an idea. Living in London suddenly becomes too uncomfortable for the attractive Jo Smart and her 16-year-old son Alex after he's beaten up. So they're offered the chance to take an immediate holiday in a peaceful Cornish town, and they jump at it. But it's not all as peaceful as it seems, as they become involved in a murder inquiry, drug raid and abduction. D.I. Rick Whittington has also escaped from London, and the reminders of the death of his wife and child, and through his investigations find himself meeting Jo and being drawn into the events surrounding her. Now, this is more of a love story, and it's set in the early 1990s, and it combines the historic Cornish love of the sea and smuggling with hard-faced 20th century crime and detection. And I describe this as a woman's crime novel. This is one of the things about my novels. They will not sit comfortably in one genre or another. They do like to cross genres. So this one's like a crime romance. Some Kind of Synchrony is like a romance thriller. And the Divining the Line is, don't know, sort of a paranormal and romance, if you can.
Oh, you think you're covering everything that everybody wants to read about.
It's not deliberate. Each book is slightly different.
And your books seem very sort of up to the minute as well, which will appeal greatly to many readers.
They were up to the minute when they were written. I tend to write in the now.
Yes.
And as I said, I tend to write ordinary people, and most of my women are usually in whatever decade I am in. I did have somebody say, who wants to read about middle-aged women living in ordinary places like Reading and Plymouth? Well, I thought, well, actually, middle-aged women living in ordinary places probably would like to read about that type of person. And they're the biggest book-buying demographic. So hopefully, when people find the books, they'll go, yes, this resonates in some way.
Certainly will.
But obviously, as I've grown older, my characters have grown older.
And you're still very young.
Well, we can discuss that.
As Nigel has said.
As Nigel said, yes. He hadn't seen my date of birth on the top of the description.
We won't tell him. So we'll keep that to ourselves, I think. Now, so the fascinating titles, Divining the Line, Nothing Ever Happens Here, and you've mentioned Some Kind of Synchrony, haven't you, already?
Yes. Well, apart from Some Kind of Synchrony, in just about all the others, the title has actually come out of the book. Somebody has said the words in the book, and I've thought, yes, this is right, this is the way that this goes. It's very interesting the way that the different inspiration comes for the books. There's Some Kind of Synchrony there. A friend happened to mention that she and her friend on a long journey were making up a story, each taking the alternate line.
Yes.
Somehow that sort of got in there, in with my own experience of telling stories, and created that book. It also linked in with that first novel that is in the back of the dusty drawer, where I hooked people on people I knew.
Yes.
And one of those, just one, went on to actually do some of the things that were in that story that I'd written. Fortunately, quite positive things, not nasty things, but it's strange how the inspiration comes.
It is. It's amazing how you can write. And how many hours a day do you reckon you put in?
Well, that's really, really very difficult. If I was free to do whatever I wanted, I would probably write for half a day. What I like to do, what my target is 1,000 words. That includes going over the previous day's 1,000 words and tightening up the language and correcting spelling errors and things like that, and then moving on to the next 1,000. Doesn't always happen.
That's
because
amazing.
I have busy life.
Well, of course, but I think you seem to have the discipline to get on with it, if you like, which does take What activities do you do apart from? I mean, do you walk? Do you garden? Do you sort of get out and get exercise as well as writing?
Well, apart from the things I mentioned, the
Yes.
bodyboarding and the sand sculpting and things like that, which I have to say I do mostly when I'm on holiday. I belong to lots of organisations, the History Group, WI,
Yes.
and things like that. But I also I do a weight program that one of my sons
Do you?
created for me. Yeah, it takes 15 minutes only
At home?
a day at home.
Do you have to have the equipment?
Well, actually, I'm trying to put a book together with this. Would you believe? And you don't. Well, it's useful to have some dumbbells, but it can be done with milk bottles.
Couple of tins or something.
Well, you need
No.
something a bit heavier than tins.
Oh, right.
Full
Plastic milk bottles.
4-pint plastic milk bottles, because one of those filled up with water comes in just over 2 kilograms, and you may
Right.
need to get up to there because it is a case of quite fast and has to be more than 15 repetitions, but you don't want to do more than 50.
So if
So
I'm
it's-
watering my tomato plants with one of these, with 2 of these,
I'm gonna
and
say-
carrying them up there and swinging them around on the way.
Well, that would just do some of the muscles. You do different sets of muscles each day, which is why it only takes 15 minutes, but it makes such a difference. It is totally transformed, totally transformed me within just by eating sensibly and
Yes.
lower carb, not nothing, lower carb, eating sensibly and doing that. I lost 2.5 stone in a year.
Oh, wonderful.
It
That
stayed off. And this was postmenopausal weight that they tell you, well, it will just go on.
I'll have to read your new
Well, when the
book
book's
on.
finished.
Yes, I'll have to do it.
When, yes.
Yes, that's great.
Well,
Well,
yes, so I do that every day. At some time. That's the other great thing. You can just do it when you fit in.
when you want to fit it in.
When you can
That's
fit it in.
good,
Yeah.
because you can buy all this expensive equipment
Oh,
and then
yeah.
never use it.
But I mean, if you found that it was working, you then just invest in some dumbbells, which are only about £25. They're not
Really?
a lot.
Yes,
they're
yes,
not a lot.
good idea.
Yeah.
Yes. Shall we?
Yeah.
Oh, well. Now, we're going to talk about your latest book is very exciting, isn't it? Your latest novel.
Well, the latest one is set at the Eden Project, which obviously is
That
right
will be
here.
so popular.
Well, I hope so.
And you've met Tim Smith, haven't you?
Yes. Having written the book, well, let's start with when I was researching the book, I did contact.
Yes.
I contacted Eden, and Dr. Alistair Griffiths, who's now the horticultural science curator, very kindly showed me all round behind the scenes, up in the foundation building where the administration goes on. We even went out to Watering Lane where the nurseries are. He answered loads of my questions. I had all these. They're under a title called "Daft Things I Need to Know."
Yes.
And it was very kind, give me all this information, and then I went away and I wrote the book. And as I wrote it, I sort of naturally wrote Tim Smith into it. He meets the main character, the main male character, and having written the whole story, I thought, oh, right, okay. Normally, you just say everybody in this book is fictional. They
Yes.
don't represent anybody that living or dead. But there I had Tim, and I thought, well, this is a bit awkward. I'm going to have to ask his permission to have him.
Definitely, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And as it happened, I was at the Port Eliot Literary Festival.
Oh, that's a marvellous thing to go to, isn't it?
It's brilliant. We were there with the Liscard poets, and the Liscard poets have read there a number of years. And I literally bumped into Tim Smith. I went into one of the bar tents to get a drink.
Yes.
And I went up to the bar behind a number of people, and he turned round with his drinks, and I was a bit close, so almost knocked his beer out of his hand, or whatever he was carrying. I was too busy apologising and going, "Oh, it's you. I wanted to speak to you." And after that, I thought, "Oh, what have I done now?" But he was really sweet, and asked me what it was about, and I explained about the novel. And he said, "Send me a copy, and I'll read it, and I'll let you know." And after a couple of weeks, which I did do, obviously, after a couple of weeks, an email came back saying, "Yes, you can use me as me in your novel." So I was mightily relieved.
It should be very successful, actually.
Well, I really hope so. It's a case of people getting to hear about the book and picking it up and reading it. This one, I'm told, will suit men just as much as women.
Oh.
Which is nice.
Well, I think it should be on the shelves in the Eden Project myself, as well as on ebook.
I have plans to have it out as a paperback by Christmas, and then I will approach them.
I do like the
see.
cover, actually. It's quite a good cover. It's got a picture of the angel bug and Foweraker. It should sell very well.
It's an interior shot of one of the humid biome in the Eden Project, because that's where the tree that causes the problem, as it were, is. It's quite interesting way that I say it's quite an interesting way that I've written this. In that the story is told through two different people, each of them in the first person, and it's told in a sort of diary format. So you have the date at the top, and you have their name at the top. So one of the people is a quiet 50-something botanist at Eden, and she's called Gabby. And they're actually, at the opening of the book, they're between senior botanists. She's just an ordinary, humble botanist, but she's the oldest one there. She's got good organisational skills, so she's sort of taken over the role of the organisational bit of the senior botanist while they're waiting for the new one to arrive. And she's looking at these big posters they've got up around that are of Luke Adamson, and he is a legendary ethnobotanist. Now, don't think this is like too much heavy science in this. An ethnobotanist is what Eden is all about. It's about how humankind and plants relate to each other. So he's coming. He's also rumoured to be a millionaire because he was making a very serious film in the rainforest, and because things happened, the baddies turned up, and it sort of turned him into an Indiana Jones character, and they turned this instead into a movie that turned into a blockbuster movie and made him big money. The other thing is she knows him. He's an American who happened to be over at university in England at the time she was at the university, and he knew her deceased husband. So there she is. She knows he's coming. She's running the show on the botanical side, and there is a problem with a tree.
Yes, well, they'll be interested to follow that up, and it will be absolutely fascinating.
Well, the thing about this tree is this is a tree that he made his name at, and he's going to want to know what's wrong with this tree, and that's where it starts. The tree is the Moringa oleifera. It's also called the miracle tree, and a miracle tree in Eden, that's where my inspiration came from.
Right. Well, I think we'll have to have your last poem now.
Okay.
And we'll, as I say, hear your last poem, and then we'll remind our guests, our listeners, about where they can pick up your e-books.
Okay, that would be lovely. Right. Well, this last poem, when I've done it at readings, people somehow they don't want to talk to me afterwards. See what you think. It's called The Novelist. I am vacuum and vampire. I suck everything up. Listening all sinks in, I suck up and drink in your story, features, every nuance, glance, sly look askance. I drink in, lap up your colouring, your layers as they peel and flake. Mesmerising as the snake, the avaricious ear that wants to hear, hears all it wants. A word of encouragement punctures reserve, and outflows the lifeblood of my prose. Listening, I take the bones of your motives, flesh of dream and desire, and crush them all in a mortar of fantasy, to a deep, dark paste, ready to dip my pen in and write.
That was fantastic. Well, remind people now how they can get their e-books once again before we finish our programme, because time is running out.
Wow, already. Well, thank you very, very much, Marge, for having me along here. You can find my e-books on Amazon by looking up any of the titles. That's The Angel Bug, or Divining the Line, or Nothing Ever Happens Here, or Some Kind of Synchrony. And to find them all at one go, you could put in Anne Foweraker. That's Foweraker.
Yes. I'm definitely going to have another look.
Or if you're not a Kindle user, if you want to read it on the computer, or if you've got one of the other types of e-readers, then you might need to go to Anne Made Books, which is Anne, A-N-N-M-A-D-E, books, annemade.books.co.uk or .com. They both will take you to Anne Made Books. And then those versions would be emailed to you, and you just drag them onto your, from your computer, drag them onto your e-reader.
Fascinating, yes. So, as I say, you've got 3 or 4 books. You can get those as
4
well.
books, and there is a
one
novella
about
out there.
the Eden Project, which is absolutely fascinating. And it's been wonderful talking to you, because you obviously, I think, are obviously a good author. And I'm sure that I will enjoy reading your books. And keep on writing, because you've got the talent there, and it's lovely to have you on Radio St Austell Bay.
Well, thank you very much. I'm already working on the next one.
Are you indeed? What a lady.